let me see if I've got this right. You want to help me review this movie?
I do.
But you have tragically misplaced all of the special time and space equipment that you would need to travel here.
That is the story I'm telling you, yes.
Do you realize that you are literally about to phone this in?
Given the movie in question, I think it's appropriate.
After an overly familiar first movie and a very divisive sequel, we've arrived at the final installment of the Star Wars sequel trilogy, and it came with the news that the antagonist of the first 6 films, Emperor Palpatine, would be returning.
My reaction is roughly what you'd expect from the average fanboy.
But after letting the excitement settle, it occurred to me, this was predicted in a skit about Episode 7 by the comedy channel The Key of Awesome, roughly a month after the Lucasfilm sale to Disney was announced.
But a new foe is on the horizon, and it's the same foe as before, Emperor Palpatine!
At the time, I rolled my eyes. I thought, yeah, have your silly little parody. There's no way the real thing would be that unimaginative. Anyway,
in the past, I've tackled the Star Wars prequels with the help of my good friends Tim and Tylor. I've been running solo on the sequel trilogy, but Tim insisted that he get a chance to say his piece on the last one.
With that, please join me, viewers, in welcoming my old friend back to the show.
Hello, this is Detective Tim. I helped establish this show. I deserve the honorific.
This is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
This might be the weirdest start to a Star Wars opening crawl thus far. The Dead Speak. A message heralding the return of Emperor Palpatine has been broadcast to the galaxy.
A message that many of us in the real world never got to hear, because it was only broadcast through an event in Fortnite.
The day of victory is at hand. The day of revenge. The day of the Sith.
I do not understand that marketing strategy. Kylo Ren doesn't care for competition, so he picks up a Sith Wayfinder on Mustafar and travels to the deep dark hole Palpatine's been scheming in for the last 3 decades.
I made Snoke. I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
So since Snoke was a puppet the whole time, him getting killed off in The Last Jedi doesn't even matter because it was pointless to get invested in him in the first place? Great.
What could you give me?
A new empire. It will be yours if you do as I ask.
You'd think the sheer amount of resources being diverted to the construction of this fleet would have been noticed.
Well, the First Order spent roughly 30 years in the unknown regions building themselves up. Secrecy is their whole thing.
Fine, but if Palpatine's in charge and already has a fully crewed fleet, why hasn't he used it instead of walking in a metaphorical circle?
Got me there.
Kill the girl. End the Jedi. And become what your grandfather Vader could not.
We cut to the Millennium Falcon, crewed by Chewbacca, Finn, Poe Dameron, and Claude.
You know, that slug alien that became a meme 2 years after this movie came out?
At least Finn and Poe are finally on screen together again. This crew is retrieving a message for Leia, which comes from a spy inside the First Order.
Who? I don't know.
Before getting pursued by TIE fighters, Poe shakes them off through the use of light speed skipping.
How do you know how to do that?
Let's review the dangers of light speed, shall we?
Without precise calculations, we'd fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova and then it end your trip real quick, wouldn't we?
So if we jump to light speed, they'll just find us again and we'll be out of fuel.
They are also more likely to come out of light speed in dead space, not in the atmospheres of several planets in a row.
You're not wrong, but it's more visually interesting this way.
Your face is more visually interesting.
Well, that's rather nice of you to say.
At the Resistance base on Agen Kloss, Rey is training to become the Avatar. Continuing her Jedi training.
Be with me. They're not with me. I'm starting to think it isn't possible to hear the voices of the Jedi who came before.
Nothing's impossible.
Nothing's impossible. I'm gonna run the training course.
One thing I will say, it's great to see a lightsaber throw in live action.
Kylo Ren reaches out to Rey, making her see some flashbacks and a distressing vision.
Join me.
You killed him.
After she snaps out of it, she sees what's happened to the Falcon.
You lightspeed skipped?
Yeah, well, it got us back here, didn't it?
Oh, the compressor's down.
Oh, I know. I was there. Every time.
Well, isn't that peachy? Arguing. What a great way to spend your first real scene together, guys.
You know I want to be out there
but you're
with
not.
you.
You're here training. For what? You're the best fighter we have. We need you.
Next, a war meeting is called to share what the spy's intel has revealed.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
This may sound like lazy writing, but for the characters, this is both too impossible and horrible to have happened, and yet it did. And it's very concerning.
I don't think it's quite as bad as people make it out to be. However, I have my own reasons for disliking it.
They say somehow like it's some kind of mystery and then immediately explain how.
Dark science. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
Furthermore, Palpatine's spirit inhabiting clone bodies is a concept that was used in the 1990s in the comic storyline Dark Empire.
And of all the concepts to bring back from the old expanded universe, I was honestly hoping that this wouldn't be one of them.
Palpatine's been out there all this time, pulling the strings.
Always in the shadows from the very beginning.
This feels like they're trying to make Palpatine even more impressive, but even the idea of bringing him back just feels like a
lack of vision.
The intel mentions Exegol, which leads to Rey finding an image of a Sith Wayfinder in one of the sacred Jedi texts.
They're compasses that lead the way to Exegol. To stop what we both know is coming. I need to finish what Luke started.
This spurs her on a mission to the desert world of Pasan, which her friends join against her wishes.
I need to go alone.
Yeah, along with friends.
It's too dangerous, Finn.
We go together.
And though they drop in on a celebration,
I'm Rey.
She would be honored to know your family name too.
I don't have one. I'm just Rey.
the moment doesn't last.
I see through the cracks in your mask. You're haunted. You can't stop seeing what you did to your father.
Do you still count the days since your parents left? Such pain in you.
This entire discussion can be summarized with the phrase, "No, you."
This isn't far off from what we saw in the last movie, but this trilogy has really pushed the boundaries of what the Force can do.
Analyzing the necklace allows the First Order to pinpoint the hero's location in record time, but they get reprieve from this mysterious new character. Just kidding, it's Lando Calrissian.
Yay!
And he just so happens to have information that they need, because why the hell not?
Luke and I were telling an old Jedi hunter, Pochia Bastoon. When we got to his ship, it was abandoned. No clue, no wayfinder.
Is Ochi's ship still here?
It's out in the desert where he left it.
We need to get to that ship. Search it again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it hasn't been picked clean in the last 20 years.
Leia needs pilots, General.
My flying days are long gone.
Even if I hadn't seen the trailer, I wouldn't have believed that for a second.
Our heroes commandeer a skiff.
How do you know how to do that?
We'll come back to that later.
For now, this is a reasonably fun action set piece. Miraculously, the ship is still there.
Objection!
Tim, they already made the movie. Can we please just get through this?
Fine. Rey recognizes this ship as the one her parents left on, which distracts her long enough for their skiff to get upended and land everyone in a sinking sandpit.
Rey, I never told you when!
Thankfully, there's a cavern beneath the sand so they don't suffocate.
So, Finn, what did you never tell her?
I'll tell you later.
This is the last movie, at this point teasing us as a waste of time. They find Ochi's decayed body, along with an inscribed dagger.
The location of the Wayfinder has been inscribed upon this dagger.
Where's the Wayfinder?
I am afraid I cannot tell you.
My programming forbids me from translating it.
But you can read it. Therefore, you can translate it.
But forget about that for now. They're in the presence of a wounded serpent. Rey steps forward and uses the Force to heal its wound.
I just transferred a bit of life. Force energy from me to him.
Hey, Tim? You still with me, bud?
Yeah. Just mentally tallying how many times in the history of Star Wars this would have come in handy. What follows is a multitude of things going wrong. Rey senses Kylo Ren on the planet, so she goes to confront him.
Don't get me wrong, that did look really cool, but I thought Kylo Ren wanted Rey to join him? Trying to ram her with the TIE fighter seems a little counterproductive.
Finn and Poe get the fossil of a ship up and running, then send Chewbacca to get Rey. Then he gets caught by the Knights of Ren,
who took their sweet time making an appearance in this trilogy.
So now the First Order has the dagger. Realizing Chewie's been caught, Rey tries to drag down the transport, only to be hindered by Kylo Ren. Until...
This trilogy makes Rey out to have a lot of raw power, but I thought you had to be really in touch with the dark side to use Force lightning. Thankfully, Chewie is alive. Still a prisoner, but alive.
The beast used to fly with Han Solo.
Meanwhile, our heroes are in a pickle without the dagger.
The translation from a forbidden language cannot be retrieved. That is short of a complete redacted memory bypass.
Let's do that. I know a black market droidsmith.
Black market droidsmith?
But he's on Kijimi.
So they travel to the planet Kijimi. After a brief scrape with Zori, somebody that Poe used to know.
I'm still digging out of the hole you put me in when you left to join the Resistance.
We could really use your help. Please.
She takes them to Babu Frick, where they find one drawback to this operation.
We make him translate it, he won't remember anything.
Doesn't R2 back up your memory?
Oh, please. R2 storage units are famously unreliable.
Since when?
R2 preserved the map to the first Jedi Temple and Leia's message to Obi-Wan for over 30 years.
3PO's been critical of R2 before, but that's just slander.
Do we have a choice?
If this mission fails, it was all for nothing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
This is a very well performed moment.
Too bad the characters he has a lot more history with aren't there to see it.
The Emperor's Wayfinder is in the Imperial Vault, on a moon in the Endor system. From the southern shore, only this blade tells.
With that settled, now we can discuss how this movie wronged Zori.
This character was given enough time to serve her purpose and nothing more. In less than 10 minutes of movie, she goes from holding a grudge against Poe to asking him to join her.
That's First Order Captain's medallion.
Free passage through any blockade. Landing privileges, any vessel.
Wanna come with me?
And then, after giving him a pep talk,
we sent out a call for help at the Battle of Crate. Nobody came. They've given up.
I don't believe you believe that. They win by making you think you're alone. There's more of us.
She just hands him her ticket off-world.
Zori, I don't think I can take this.
I don't care what you think.
My problem is not with the narrative or the character, but with the plot moving along so quickly that the impact of small moments like this is greatly diminished.
After Rey senses that Chewbacca is actually alive, the heroes sneak aboard a Star Destroyer to rescue him, while Rey looks for the dagger.
We need it.
Why?
A feeling.
Translation? Because the script said so.
They're quickly surrounded, but get help from an unexpected source.
I'm the spy.
What? You?
Blast me in the arm.
Why are you helping us?
I don't care if you win. I need Kylo Ren to lose.
Wow. Hux is kicking over the game board because he can't win.
The reveal was random, but that's actually very fitting. While recovering the dagger, Rey shares another long-distance clash with Kylo Ren.
It was Palpatine who had your parents taken. He was looking for you.
She isn't on Jakku, she's gone.
before finally learning the truth of her past.
You're his granddaughter. You are a Palpatine.
This reveal was disappointing.
I appreciated Rey not being descended from an established character. Changing course on that doesn't feel like payoff to good foreshadowing, but a decision made purely due to backlash against The Last Jedi.
I get it. That movie upset a lot of people, but undercutting it makes this movie feel like an apology, which makes for sloppy storytelling. After Kylo shares one more bit of exposition.
We're a dyad in the Force, Rey. Two, then a one.
I believe the term you're searching for is drift compatible.
We'll kill him together and take the throne.
Rey escapes with her friends on the Falcon, and Hux gets sussed out.
Get me the Supreme Leader.
Yes, sir.
Tell him we found our spy.
Spies that help the protagonists often get redeemed, so seeing Hux blasted was unexpected, and not in a bad way.
You know what would have been funny? If Phasma had been the spy.
Oh my god. She shows up and Finn is like, "How are you still alive? I watched you fall into fire."
She's still pissed at Finn, but working for the First Order is what put her in this situation, so she's weirdly more angry at them, and they ended up working together.
That would have been great.
After the heroes escape, Kylo Ren communicates with Palpatine.
Perhaps you have betrayed me.
Definitely.
I know where she's going. She'll never be a Jedi.
Make sure of it. Kill her.
But I guess we're not going to deal with that right now.
The Falcon crash lands on Kef Bir, the ocean moon of Endor, and our heroes find wreckage from the second Death Star.
It's gonna take us years to find what we're looking for.
Oh, dear.
Only this blade tells.
Oh god, not this part. An ancient artifact matches the shape of wreckage, not a specifically crafted intact structure. Random, jagged wreckage.
The Force works in ridiculously convenient ways. And the worst part about this is that it might not have been necessary.
The dagger already led them to the wreckage, and the throne room was an important location, so searching it would just make sense.
It's plot convenience either way, but the dagger took it a couple steps too far.
Before we move on, let's run back to a latent subplot. Finn and Poe have had several passive-aggressive arguments on this journey.
We're gonna die in sand burrows and we're all keeping secrets?
I'll tell you when you tell us about all that shifty stuff you do.
You were a spice runner? You were a stormtrooper?
Were you a spice runner?
Were you a scavenger? We could do this all night. I'm not Leia.
That's for damn sure.
It comes off like they're crabby and need a nap. And it's not serving their character arcs or the story in a meaningful or satisfying way.
It's disappointing to get excited for two characters who started off as total bros, only to barely see that dynamic over the next couple of movies.
Some locals approach them after the crash. Their leader, Jannah, explains that their entire group are First Order deserters.
We laid our weapons down. It wasn't a decision. Really, it was like...
an instinct. A feeling. A force.
I'm not totally sure how I feel about they deserted because of the Force, but I like that Finn gets to meet someone who shares this experience.
It's also the closest we get to confirmation that Finn is Force sensitive.
The Force brought me to Rey and Poe. I wasn't sure then, but I am now.
Back to Rey, she swipes a skimmer and searches the ruins of the Emperor's throne room. A door adjacent to the throne opens up for her.
Was that there in Return of the Jedi?
Which reveals the Wayfinder, and also a vision.
Don't be afraid of who you are.
Oh, repurposing a line for dramatic effect.
Never be afraid of who you are.
Very foreboding.
It also makes you question why they didn't give the real Rey a double-bladed lightsaber.
Then Kylo Ren shows up, destroying the Wayfinder and drawing parallels between his backstory and Rey's.
You wanted to prove to my mother that you were a Jedi, but you've proven something else. You can't go back to her now. Like I can't.
Then they duel.
This brings us to a section of the movie I've come to appreciate more with each viewing.
Rey can't muster the strength to defeat Kylo Ren, but Leia, having sensed what's going on, exhausts the last of her strength to reach out to her son, which gives Rey an opening to stab him. Only then does she sense Leia and snap out of it.
At the end of The Last Jedi, Rey had written off Kylo Ren, but in realizing that Leia hadn't given up on him, Rey's anger is overpowered by remorse. So she heals him, makes a confession,
I did want to take your hand. Ben's hand.
and then takes off in Kylo's TIE fighter. Meanwhile, her friends return to base and learn of Leia's fate.
She's gone.
As most are aware, Carrie Fisher passed away in late 2016. Her presence in this movie was made possible through the use of extra footage filmed for The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, with input and consent from her family.
Disregarding the rest of the movie, it's difficult to watch without feeling like this. Everybody's an emotional rock until Chewie starts crying.
Even with a limited performance, the character's presence makes a decent impact on the film, as does the one that appears to Kylo Ren.
You're just a memory.
Your memory. Come home.
It's too late. She's gone.
This conversation does echo The Force Awakens a lot.
I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
You do.
But it gets the job done.
Dad.
I know.
With Ben Solo no longer an asset to him, the Emperor throws a tantrum by having one of his Star Destroyers destroy Kijimi. I went easy on The Force Awakens for Starkiller Base. At least they updated the base concept. But this is so much power that power itself feels meaningless. Slapping a planet killer on every ship is the kind of thing a 7-year-old would write as fanfiction. That might sound mean, but I'm not insulting this hypothetical 7-year-old. I'm critiquing the story of a major film in one of the most iconic franchises of all time.
To be fair, if Palpatine has a bunch of small planet killers, he doesn't really need a new master plan, does he? And pulling back a bit, it kind of makes sense for a ship called a Star Destroyer to have the ability to destroy a planet, doesn't it?
I can hear in your voice that you don't like it either, Stephen.
Well, aren't you perceptive?
Leia's last command was naming Poe General. After some encouraging words from Lando,
Luke, Han, Leia, me. Who's ever ready?
How'd you do it?
We had each other.
Poe asks Finn to help him lead.
I can't do this alone. I need you in command with me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. General.
Them being catty with each other feels more irrelevant than ever, doesn't it?
Speaking of wasted time, this droid, Dio, was found on the Jedi Hunter's ship and is only now providing plot-relevant information.
He was going to Exegol with Ochi of Festoon.
Why was Ochi going there?
To bring a little girl he was supposed to take from Jakku to the Emperor. He wanted her alive.
Ashamed of her actions, Rey flies to Ahch-To in Ben's ship, then vents her frustrations by setting it on fire.
A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect.
Hold on now,
What my mild-mannered friend is trying to say is, this joke didn't age well. On the flip side, Luke does a pretty good job helping Rey through her identity crisis.
What are you most afraid of?
Myself.
Because you're a Palpatine. Leia knew it too.
She still trained me.
Some things are stronger than blood.
Thank you, Luke. And although I wish Rey didn't have special ancestry, it's easy enough to sympathize with her plight.
She spent this trilogy searching for belonging. She was in denial for years over why she was abandoned, then had to come to grips with the fact that it happened for no good reason, and that there wasn't an easy answer about her destiny. Only to then discover that she was descended from the most evil person in the galaxy.
As fans, our expectations got jerked around. If you apply that feeling to a person's life, that's Rey.
The execution was not the best, but seeing the path more clearly does help to ease my disappointment in how it played out.
Luke offers Rey Leia's old lightsaber, confirming that Leia did train to be a Jedi.
That bit of info was like candy for a fanboy. What comes next? Not so much.
Leia told me that she had sensed the death of her son at the end of her Jedi path. She surrendered her saber to me and said that one day it would be picked up again by someone who would finish her journey.
That's the most convenient bit of premonition since the dagger perfectly matched the shape of some wreckage. After R2 restores 3PO's memory, because he is the most reliable droid in the galaxy, thank you very much, he starts receiving transmissions from Rey, who's dropping course markers from Luke's X-Wing to chart a safe course through the unknown regions.
She's showing us how to get there.
Then we go together.
They form a plan of attack, while sending Lando and Chewbacca to gather more forces to help.
First Order wins by making us think we're alone. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
I know Crate was a total bust, but we'll get him this time, I swear. It's the third movie, guys. I got a good feeling.
The Resistance fleet flies to Exegol, but the plan immediately hits a snag.
The navigation tower has been deactivated.
What? Those ships need that signal. It's got to be coming from somewhere.
They figured out what we're doing.
So they land a transport on the wing of the command ship and launch a ground assault.
Jam the speeders.
They're not using speeders.
Star Wars Battlefront 2 did something kind of like this, and it's really cool to see it in a movie.
Plus, it's a very rebel vibe to employ unusual combat strategies. But the navigation signal is about to transfer again, so Finn and Janna attempt a risky move.
I'll get the trigger!
Rey enters the underground temple and discovers the reason Palpatine wanted her alive.
Your hatred, your anger. Kill me, and my spirit will pass into you. As all the Sith live in me, we will be one.
Comment down below, did any of you out there really like Dark Empire? And did you like that its ideas got repurposed for this movie?
Only you have the power to save them. Refuse, and your new family dies.
I'll give him this. Palpatine is good at offering impossible choices. Rey prepares to kill Palpatine. And can we just take a moment to observe that there's an audience of Sith disciples that we know nothing about, because this trilogy dedicated no time to establishing lore that could have shed light on this plot point.
You disappoint me.
In the end, Rey pulls one over on Palpatine by using the Force to pass a lightsaber to an unexpected ally. Then both of them proceed to kick some ass.
Goodbye, Knights of Ren. I'm sorry this trilogy failed to make you important.
Speaking of half-baked ideas...
A dyad in the Force. The power of two restores the one. True Emperor.
Rey and Ben being connected by destiny didn't come out of nowhere, but the fact that Palpatine can just draw on their power to rejuvenate his body? It's like the dyad thing was created so this exact situation could take place, which makes it feel like a cheap concept.
Meanwhile, things are going poorly for the Resistance.
No, step! Step! No!
Oh no.
Not that guy. Oh, of course they go for Snap.
They just had to kill a character I liked from the new canon, didn't they?
Just too many of them.
But there are more of us, Poe.
Yeah!
Honestly, seeing that many ships on screen at once, hearing that music, it really felt like the whole galaxy was rising up to stop the ultimate evil, and that was pretty cool.
Who's that flyer?
Take a guess, Spice Runner.
Alas, the ultimate evil is the guy who can now do this. The Force has officially entered Dragon Ball Z territory, after Palpatine commits false advertising on the film's title.
As once I fell, so falls the last Skywalker.
Rey's avatar training finally kicks in, allowing her to hear the voices of past Jedi.
Every Jedi who ever lived lives in you.
The Force surrounds you, Rey.
Let it guide you as it guided us.
Feel the Force flowing through you, Rey. Let it lift you.
Rise, Rey.
This moment was meant to be very significant, so I don't understand why we didn't get to see these Jedi as Force ghosts. The fan service alone would have been amazing.
Rey, the Force will be with you. Always. Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion.
This is such a good Palpatine line that I just wish it were in a better movie.
Wait, Palpatine wanted Rey alive before. Does being rejuvenated mean that he can't just transfer his spirit again?
Considering he needed her to strike him down in hatred, and now this?
I am all the Sith!
And I'm all the Jedi.
I think that ship has jumped into hyperspace.
Free from electrocution, the Resistance manages to destroy the command ship and trap the fleet on Exegol, effectively winning the battle. All that's left now is to save the guy who just loves to make the sacrifice play.
Unfortunately, the battle took a heavy toll, and Rey's life force is fading. What? He fell into a pit and there was lightning. The laws of symbolism and physics made it look like he was dead. And that's not the only stretch made here, because it looks like Ben Solo learned Force Heal on his first day of redemption.
This is the moment that ensured, whether you shipped these characters or not, everybody would leave the theater disappointed.
Now Ben and Leia becoming one with the Force at the same time, that's a nice touch.
The Resistance celebrates at their base, while others across the galaxy rise up against what's left of the First Order. Everybody hugs, Chewie finally gets a medal, and we get a hint of something?
Where are you from, General?
The gold system. What about you, kid?
I don't know.
Well, let's find out.
Are they implying that Janna might be Lando's daughter?
Not the most pressing thing at this point in the story, but cool, I guess? The movie ends with Rey traveling to Tatooine, where she lays the lightsabers of Luke and Leia to rest. Then she takes a second to appreciate her new one, and introduces herself to a local.
There's been no one for so long.
I'm Rey.
Rey who?
The following moment has been characterized as cheesy, cringeworthy, even disgraceful.
Rey Skywalker.
I will concede cheesy, but I don't think that this is a bad choice, and Rey being a Palpatine barely factors into it.
Her blood ties to him are only relevant in this movie. Sure, hearing the truth was upsetting, but the two are clearly enemies. Rey not wanting to keep his name comes as no surprise. But even if Rey weren't related to a legacy character, the Skywalkers welcomed her into their clan. Taking their name is just a way to show that she's proud to carry their legacy.
What can I say? I'm a sucker for the found family trope. I only wish it had better execution.
Though to be fair, I've been spoiled on that front in recent years.
Regardless, adopting the name Skywalker feels like a more meaningful ending to this character's story than being a Skywalker by blood ever could have been. So that was Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. And I have to wonder, is the denial that I initially felt about this movie similar to what some fans felt in 1999 after watching The Phantom Menace?
It's decently made, the actors perform well, the visuals are good, and several individual moments are decently executed for what they are. It had its funny moments, crowd pleasers, and occasionally even some interesting ideas. But it gave bare minimum effort in concluding the story arcs of Finn and Poe, backtracked on everything from The Last Jedi that it possibly could, and leaned on nostalgia in a way that hurt the movie as a whole. It just goes to show that good ingredients can't save a bad recipe.
Which is unfortunate considering the chef also helped write the recipe after the original chef was fired, but then he enlisted the help of a co-chef who had the history of bungling other recipes. This metaphor is falling apart.
Kind of like the movie. This was presented as the finale to the Skywalker saga. It made a bunch of new story threads when it should have been tying off existing ones. With a longer movie, or even 2 movies, the story might have had room to breathe, and the weirder plot points might have been easier to digest. As is, so much was packed into The Rise of Skywalker that it barely has a chance to slow down and let the emotional stakes be felt properly. This movie feels like payoff for a bunch of build-up that we never got to see. The focus should have been on crafting a good conclusion to this trilogy and the story of the new characters.
On that note, let's circle back to Palpatine.
Ian McDiarmid is always fantastic in the role. But apart from the clone thing, this is just a replay of Palpatine's classic moves without much of a fresh take. We're told he's the puppet master, but we don't get the full impact of his presence. I could say I wish they'd handled this differently, but to be honest, I wanted to see Kylo Ren flourish as the central antagonist, and maybe have more of a reckoning with his past than one line of dialogue and a conversation with a memory of Han. Palpatine's part in this story took away from that, and in addition, his survival retroactively dampens the impact of the first 6 movies.
I don't know for sure if the movie we got was the goal in mind, a result of rushed production, if there was too much corporate interference from Disney, or something else entirely. It's common knowledge at this point that Lucasfilm didn't create a general outline for the sequel trilogy. So while you could say that The Force Awakens and or The Last Jedi were decent movies, and The Rise of Skywalker is where things fell apart, the fact is that all 3 are the byproduct of loose planning and don't fit together that well.
My biggest obstacle in reviewing this movie was not wanting to revisit that disappointment. I didn't want to engage with a Star Wars that I didn't enjoy.
Hatred for the prequel trilogy poisoned this fandom for a long time. Now that a lot more Star Wars content is getting made, it's become easier to just move forward with the new stuff. That being said, reviewing this movie has allowed me to reflect on my disappointment and come out the other side with a more forgiving perspective. Even so, I consider The Rise of Skywalker to be the worst film in the Star Wars franchise.
Now let's look at a plot hole so we can bury this trilogy once and for all. Or at least until that new Jedi Order movie with Rey comes out.
Why couldn't C-3PO reveal the Wayfinder's location some other way?
This is 3PO's supposed obstacle.
I am mechanically incapable of speaking translations from Sith.
However, he also says,
I know exactly where the Wayfinder is.
So what if 3PO can't speak it? Tell him to enter the coordinates into the ship's computer, or make a copy of his memory and have Babu Frick use other back alley methods to crack the code.
Hey there, Tyler. How's it going?
Oh, pretty great. How are you doing?
Dude, are you upset with me?
No, I'm good. It just feels so great to get stabbed in the back.
Alright, calm down with the passive aggression, dude. What did I do?
Steven, you didn't even ask me to be part of your 10-year anniversary review.
Oh, well, I don't know what else to say, but sorry about that, man. I mean, between the two of you, Tim is the bigger Star Wars fan. I honestly didn't think you were that invested.
I have opinions too, you know.
Okay, Tyler, well, tell you what. I'm recording my screen now, so go ahead and tell the world. What do you have to say about The Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, Steven, I'll tell you what I have to say about The Rise of Skywalker. I didn't care for it.
That's it?
I mean, it came out 3.5 years ago, man. I'm kind of over it, honestly.
You are ridiculous. You know that?
Let's be real, Steven. You love me.
Somehow this is true.